Hi everyone, welcome along to the penultimate programme of the 2018 Pickup Truck Racing Championship here at a very wet Pembrey circuit in South Wales. Storm Callum has hit, so the circuit's very wet for the first of our 3 races, where Scott Bourne is looking to defend the championship lead from David O'Regan and Lee Wood in third. Scott, really tricky out there, but you managed to secure pole position, so wet or dry, you're always at the top, at the sharp end, so good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the conditions when we went out weren't ideal. It was the same for everybody, but it's just trying to find that sort of right line, trying to manage the tyres so we didn't overheat the tyres and that, and if I felt comfortable on the build-up laps, and then we managed to put a time in on session 1 to take P1, and the same in session 2, so it's chuffed with double pole there.
Mark, all of the circuits are new to you, but you've gone out and banged in a P2 in quali. That's pretty good.
Yeah, so quite good actually, isn't it? Yeah, quite surprised actually. Yeah, I like the wet as well, and got a different gearbox, which has helped quite a lot. Yeah, really good.
So the old one was the H pattern, and now you're sequential.
Yep.
So obviously we were discussing in oval racing, you don't have to change gear, but so circuit racing is a new thing for you. But obviously really happy with what you got.
Yeah, really happy. Yeah. Just got to remember when I'm in second, when I want to go to third, not to come up in the first.
Paul, great to see you back with us. Obviously caught you at Rockingham, but nice to see circuit racing again. What's kept you away?
Yeah, well, we've had quite a few things to do back home, and we've been doing it for like 7 or 8 years now, flat out. So, you know, things need to be done back home, and so we're getting ready for next year. And you know, we're back out here setting the truck up, and hopefully we can have a good year next year.
Always great to welcome a new driver to Pickup Truck Racing. Simon Ward, welcome along. Can you tell us a little bit about your background in racing?
Yeah, I started racing in 2014, doing classic touring cars. I've been doing that sort of 14, 15, 16. We won the championship with a Mark II Astra GT in 2017. Had a bit of a bad start to the year. We had a bit of a ate the wall at Rockingham in the touring car, so that knocked it about a bit. Been following pickups for about sort of 12 months. One come up for sale, we've got it, and here we are. So yeah, I've driven it twice, but that's basically it. I'm used to front wheel drive Vauxhall, so now I've got rear wheel drive Vauxhall, so yeah.
Storm Callum has hit hard. It's a very wet track for race number 1, and the top 6 reversed from the first qualifying session sees Mark Cooper coming out of pit lane. He starts on pole position, just about makes it in time to join the front of the grid, and they line up like this. Joining Mark on the front row is David O'Regan, second in the championship. Then it's Lee Wood and Dan Petters, followed by championship leader Scott Bourne. Dean Tompkins in the Pro 2 is alongside, then Dale Gent and George Taricki, row 4. Jeff Dixon is on row 5 with Lee Rogers for company. Then it's Chris Land and Rhys Jones. Row 7, Pete Stevens, another Pro 2 driver next to him, Rich Ayling. Then it's Michael Smith and Paul Tompkins on row 8. Roger Dormer on row 9 with Paul Jones, the grid completed by Mark Willis and Simon Ward. Looks like early problems for the man 5th in the championship. Paul Tompkins, the Rockingham champion, is coming into pit lane. One hazards to guess that maybe water is in the works somewhere along the line. That's going to be a problem that's going to affect everybody. Single file start. Great call from the race organiser. It's Mark Cooper who leads the pickup truck race for the first time. The Ford powered car running very well in qualifying. There's Lee Wood in 43, third in the championship. Daniel Petters is 10th, second in the rookies ahead of Rhys Jones. Rookie championship leader is Dale Gent. They've all made a pretty good start apart from Paul Tompkins, who's going wide there. Goes Cooper, and David O'Regan is there to pounce. The man second in the standings goes through. Lee Wood is third, Dan Petters. Then this man, Scott Bourne in the Gold Arch number 1, the defending champion, has a good lead. Took both qualifying poles, so maximum 40 points in qualifying for Scott Bourne, extending his championship lead over David O'Regan, and it's O'Regan that leads. Scott Bourne is going to be mindful of where O'Regan finishes, and also Lee Wood, as Dan Petters gets stuck in, looks at the inside line here of Lee Wood. He's going to try and go past. Look at Petters, the ease of which the correction is made there on the 86. He's having a good dice, and he's defending at the same time from Scott Bourne, the Newmarket racer, ahead of the Sussex-based man. Scott trying to go through, top 5 braking clear at the moment, on board with Lee Wood. down the main straight, looks up the inside line here, challenging for second position. Mark Cooper still there at the moment. Cooper's taking a fairly circumspect line into the, look how much water there is there, going into the hairpin. It's this track actually is below sea level, and when the tide is in and the sea is actually quite near to Pembrey, as we watch Mark Willis back with the Circuit Racing Championship, and then Michael Smith in 93, Michael fourth in the championship standings, and Mark Willis started off the back of the grid for this one because he didn't race last time we saw the trucks at Donington Park. You might remember had a massive shunt at Rockingham and came back for the last Rockingham round as Scott Bourne tries to go around the outside line of Daniel Petters. Side by side they go, difficult in any conditions, even more so in the wet. And Scott Bourne here trying to get the position from Dan Petters. Great clean fair racing from the pair of them. They both stay on the tarmac and Scott Bourne makes the move, gets in front. Dan Petters learning here of course this year, one of several newcomers to the championship, had the biggest number of newcomers for several seasons, and the driver's imagination very definitely being captured for this championship. Lee Wood tries to go around the outside of Mark Cooper. Mark comes from Wimborne in Dorset, running well here, very well indeed. This is very early in his circuit racing career, a champion in lightning rods on the short ovals, the Sierra, predominantly Sierra-based championship. Mark Willis making a lot of progress in the 65. It is good to see him back, and he is challenging Rhys Jones, and from Herne Bay, one of the top rookies. We've got some real quality rookies this year coming into the championship, and Mark's teeing him up, looks on the inside line here. This is a new bit of race tarmac. They're going down there into the 90-degree left-hander new clubman corner here at Pembrey, which hasn't quite got the sweep, the fast sweep that the trucks have been used to over the years, but it is a challenge. It's another overtaking opportunity really, and Lee Wood is having a go now. Mark Cooper, Wood's got the inside line, splashes through the puddle and takes second position, heading down into the hairpin once again. Look at the water there. I mentioned that we are quite near the coast here, and looks like Daniel Petters had a straight on moment maybe. We'll try and catch up, see what happened with him. It's Lee Wood second, Mark Cooper in third, and there is Daniel Petters. He had a problem with the truck. It wasn't a driving problem, it looks like a mechanical issue for Dan Petters in the Ford powered machine. Jeff Dixon coming under pressure there from Mark Willis. So Willis from the back of the grid. You start at the back if you missed the previous meeting, and also if you change one of the sealed components on the truck. Willis looking around the outside line here of Jeff Dixon. There's a lot of trucks in the mix there, including Michael Smith, the former champion, double champion Michael Smith in the mix as well. Then 77 Chris Land running in the Pro 2 category, on board with Chris the Cornishman, learning his trade well. Hadn't raced anything before coming into the pickup truck championship, which is unusual, but he's bedding in well to the series. Dale Gent in 83 behind him. He's the rookie championship leader at the moment, Dale, and running well here. Was very quick in qualifying, you might remember, at Thruxton, and bagged a couple of podia there as well as Scott Bourne gets stuck in now and challenges for third place on the outside line. Outbreaks Mark Cooper, goes through at the new club corner. They're going to rejoin the old circuit here and then head to the far side of the track. George Taricki in behind in the 28, another very rapid rookie, and in fact the only rookie to have won a race this year. That was on the Rockingham Oval, completely separate championship. And Michael Smith now trying to get past Jeff Dixon, which he does. Dale Gent will be teeing up the 50 truck next, and Dale having a look around the outside line here. Those two side by side, filthy conditions, but Dale Gent manages to make it past. Dale was telling me he's only had one meeting here before, racing his Subaru in Thunder Saloons, and didn't get on too well, and he's been suffering a little bit with lurgies this week, Dale Gent, so it's good that he's here. There was talk of him not racing, but he has made it, as George Taricki closes in on Mark Cooper. George has done, I think, a few more races than Mark this year, has a very good run there, makes up the position. But it's David O'Regan coming under pressure now from Lee Wood. This the battle for the lead here at Pembrey, the first of 3 races this weekend to compensate for the cancelled meeting which was scheduled for Linden Circuit. Great news for the Welsh race fans here, and Lee challenging O'Regan. This is potentially for second place in the championship as well. The championship leader's right behind them. We go on board with Lee Wood. Visibility is an absolute premium here. Wood chasing O'Regan, so it's the Irishman out front at the moment. O'Regan's had 2 race wins this year. Lee Wood has had 5, but had that DNF in our last meeting at Snetterton, and a non-start in race 2. George Taricki gets it all crossed up as the battle for the lead comes down into the hairpin. Lee Wood's going to have a look, realises he's not far enough up, and therefore takes the wider line into the hairpin, past the parked up car of Daniel Petters, and Wood still piling the pressure on O'Regan. Real game of cat and mouse between these two. O'Regan is there. Both of these guys effectively are going to need a non-finish from the man behind, Scott Bourne, now, or some sort of misfortune for Scott in terms of the championship. But we have got, including this one, 6 races to go as Wood dives down the inside as he go into club corner. O'Regan's going to fight back on the outside line, but it's Lee Wood in front now. Lee Wood hoping to turn around a run of disappointment, really, for him, you have to say. Certainly the last meeting was. So Wood in front, O'Regan second, Scott Bourne, the championship leader, is in third. You saw the back end of the 43 truck wanting to break away there, and that's what he wants to do, break away himself from David O'Regan now in second place. So it's Wood the leader, O'Regan second, Scott Bourne is third. Michael Smith here in 93 splashes through the puddles ahead of Lee Rogers and Dale Gent. Those 3 having a good battle. It looks like Smith's truck is giving up the ghost as Lee Rogers and Gent go through. Well, good battle going on here. Dale Gent looks on the inside line here of Lee Rogers going into the new clubman's corner, and Gent, that means he's got the outside line heading up in towards the centre S's. Rogers can't quite match him, gets a little bit of opposite lock there, a little bit slidey, and we got Michael Smith now seemingly coming back onto it. So Smith in 93, before we went to break, I thought was dropping away, but he's back on the case in the A1 Performance Products truck, all over the back of the Exeter base racer Lee Rogers. Lee currently 7th in the championship. He's got Smith right behind him, and a little bit further back now Jeff Dixon in the 50, the man from Hales Owen. Smith on the inside line, challenging hard as they come out of Honda corner. He's going to have the line going down into the hairpin, fastest part of the track into the slowest. Smith's got the line. Lee Rogers is a very experienced driver. He knows that position's gone, takes a slightly wider line in, might get a decent run out of the corner, and maybe have a go on the cutback into Spitfires and DeBenny. They're into Spitfires now. The next corner, the left-hander is DeBenny, and Michael Smith, well, he's got that place sorted out. Meanwhile, up front, the Ford powered truck of Lee Wood, another Ford in second place, David O'Regan. The GM of Scott Bourne is running in third position, and Scott here needs to pass O'Regan to take that championship points gap a little bit further ahead. 2,568 points. Problem there for Roger Dormer. Good to see Roger back on track with us, but not good to see him retiring from the race. Joins Paul Tompkins, Daniel Petters, Paul Jones is out of the race as well, and now Roger the Dodger as we go back to the scrap for second place. Bourne working hard, 2,528 points coming into the meeting, playing 2,324 of David O'Regan, and at the moment the Ford truck has just got the legs. The Parcel Force machine ahead of the Gold Arts truck of reigning champion Scott Bourne, who gets again opposite lock, trying to go into the hairpin and getting on the power. Bourne all over the back of O'Regan. It looks like Lee Wood is going to bag a 6th win of the championship season. Dale Gent still there, up ahead of Michael Smith. They seem to have managed to drop Lee Rogers, who I think has got a little bit of a problem. Michael Smith running in 8th place, got Mark Willis ahead of him. Dale Gent is in 9th position, Jeff Dixon in 10th. Top rookie at the moment is George Taricki, and the top Pro 2 engine driver is Dean Tompkins in the 21. Dean's had a very good drive here and heading for 6th position at the moment as we watch the battle for second going through the final corner, as does Lee Wood, who takes the 6th win of the year. Wood wins. Second place is going to go to David O'Regan, but he's chased by Scott Bourne. O'Regan nabbed second, Scott Bourne is third. George Taricki is in 4th place. Mark Cooper bagging an excellent 5th position in the 30 truck in only his 5th race in pickup truck, so Cooper's going to be delighted with that. But Lee Wood will close in on the championship standings with that one. He wins. David O'Regan 2nd, Scott Bourne 3rd from George Taricki and Mark Cooper. Dean Tompkins 6th from Mark Willis, Michael Smith, Dale Gent and Jeff Dixon. Chris Land next to Rhys Jones. Then Simon Ward 13th on his debut, ahead of Rich Ayling, Lee Rogers and Pete Stevens completing the finishes. Fastest lap to George Taricki. Well, what a race that was in very, very difficult conditions here at Pembrey. And the drivers get a little bit of a breather now. And we'll be hoping for drier conditions in day 2 of our race meeting here. Let's have a word with the winners.
Lee, congratulations. That's a good way to get a difficult weekend underway.
It is, absolutely, yeah. We had an unfortunate Snetterton, as you well know, and it turned out to be, I thought it was the gearbox, it turned out to be the engine, an issue with the engine, so took us out of 2 races there, so it was a case of rebuilding it again for this meeting, and to go out there and win the race like we did was, just spot on. It's what we needed, absolutely, so keep the championship alive.
David, not bad. P2, a great race with Scott in the closing stages there.
Yeah, that was amazing actually. I enjoyed that race as a race, even with the wet and the bad conditions and everything. It was a brilliant race between the 3 of us. I think overall it was tight, it looked tight. We pulled away from 4th, I think, I'm not sure it was in 4th, but we pulled away nicely, so it was good to have a battle between the 3 of us again, you know.
Scott, cracking race there with David, and you two 1 and 2 in the championship, so the fans were really seeing how things are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's plenty of respect between the 3 of us up there, and like you say, we're fighting for a championship here. So nice, clean racing. I had a little look at him up the inside, but it was a bit risky, and I thought, we need the points at the end of the day, so let's not make any. Try and be a hero and try and bring it home and good haul of points.
Paul, sorry to see you really non-start that one. What's the issue?
I think the fuel pump's packed up on it. I probably used all my luck up at Rockingham the other week, but we're not really sure. It got really wet in the qualifying and just wouldn't go anywhere. So we pulled in. We tried fixing it. We thought we fixed it, but as soon as we went back out, we wouldn't have none of it. So we pulled back in, and they're flat out now trying to fix it for tomorrow.
Fingers crossed that they do. And going back to that point about Rockingham, congratulations on winning this year's Rockingham Championship and a superb double at the last oval meeting there.
Yeah, I couldn't believe my luck, but luck was on our side that day. I've got to thank everyone that helped me for that as well, because without them we wouldn't do it. But yeah, that was something else to do that.
The weather is better today, but it's still left drivers with some problems. George Taricki there in yellow, right of screen. Looks like he's got issues. The grid looks like this though. Dale Gent on pole, Dean Tompkins the top Pro 2 runner alongside. Then it's Lee Wood, race 1 winner, and David O'Regan next to him. Mark Cooper and championship leader Scott Bourne on row 3. Paul Jones with George Taricki on the 4th row of the grid there, followed by Mark Willis and Jeff Dixon. 6th row of the grid, Simon Ward, our newcomer. Rhys Jones is alongside him. Then it's Lee Rogers and Chris Land. Row 8, Roger Dormer with Pete Stevens. Penultimate row, Rich Ayling and Paul Tompkins. And then the final row of the grid, Michael Smith and Dan Petters. Stuart Bradburn leads the trucks along Cowell Straight. Stuart, long-term driver for the start car and safety car. George Taricki has issues. We'll try and catch up with George after the race and see what those problems are, whether they are water related or not. This is Honda corner, and then they come onto the main straight and ready for the start. You can see Stuart bringing the pace car into pit lane. Green flags waved everywhere, so it's a traditional 2x2 start this time around, and it's Dale Gent in black, Dean Tompkins with an excellent 6th position in race number 1 in his Pro 2 truck alongside. Lee Wood's going to look up the inside line. Scott Bourne's behind Tompkins. Mark Cooper in blue tucked up at the moment in 5th position. 6 is 82 Paul Jones, with Jeff Dixon looking around the outside line, but it's Dale Gent here who got the best of the start. Gent in 83, leading the rookie championship as we've already mentioned. And Mark Willis looking to deal here with Jeff Dixon. It's going to be an escape strategy, isn't it, for Dale Gent off the front row of the grid. and will try and put as much ground between himself and the field as he can. Secured a pole position at Snetterton. You may well remember Dean Tompkins gets a little bit crossed up there, but collects it up as Rhys Jones engages in battle here with Jeff Dixon, 40 and 50. Dixon on the inside line. Christopher Land is in behind. Then it's Michael Smith who's making progress off the back of the grid. This is a great shot of these trucks herring down the straight. Doesn't look too wet here, but there is some spray. If you watch the wheels, you can see there is some coming up, but conditions slightly better, certainly for spectators. A lot better for drivers today as Lee Wood challenges for second on board with Dean Tompkins. Lee Wood down the inside line, takes second. Scott Bourne will try and follow him through, but was too far back there. And you heard Scott saying in his race 1 interview that he's probably just thinking twice about making moves now. He's got the championship lead out to, by my maths, 204 points, which is effectively 1 race finish, and he doesn't want to jeopardise that lead by having a non-finish. So spots a move there, goes through into 3rd place. Now Dale Gent's on the grass, Lee Wood's back in front. Dale Gent made a little mistake there, and Scott Bourne goes past him as well, so loses 3 places in actual fact, because Dean Tompkins is through as well, and Dale Gent from the lead is off the podium. He's got Mark Cooper behind him, so here come the top 5. A little bit of a gap now to 6th place, but expect Dale Gent to fight back from that. This is, remember, his learning year in pickup truck racing, and Dale's acquitted himself very, very well indeed this season. But it's Lee Wood out front with Scott Bourne in 2nd place. Lee Wood is 63 points down on David O'Regan in the championship now, and David, as I've mentioned, 204 shy of Scott Bourne. Michael Smith still 4th in the standings, and Dale Gent, by my reckoning, goes up to 5th after a good strong run in race number 1 at the expense of Paul Tompkins, who of course DNF. And if you have a DNF in pickups, effectively you're losing 200 points for the win, but also the places, it's 150 for 5th place, so 150 points that is. So if you have a DNF, you really do get hit on the points, and that's why we had some changes, and why also the championship is likely to go to Brands Hatch for the 3 races there. Whether it'll be wrapped up in race 1 or not remains to be seen, but the likelihood is it's going to go to the 2 races on Sunday at Brands Hatch, first weekend in November. On board with Rhys Jones. What a spectacular shot that is. These onboards giving us great footage. Michael Smith ahead of Jeff Dixon now. Rhys Jones and Paul Tompkins chasing. Then Daniel Petters in the blue and yellow machine. On board with Dan. As we mentioned before, an ex-National Saloon stock car driver, predominantly racing on shale, so used to car control, really learned a lot of that, trying to slot down the inside line of Rhys Jones here, so plenty of rookies in the battle there against 2 more experienced drivers, 12 Paul Tompkins and Jeff Dixon, who is past. Jeff just has a little run on the grass. He'll pull the Palmer's garage machine back onto the tarmac as he ride on board again with Dan Petters. So following Paul Tompkins, it looks like Winkle, as Paul is known, has got his problems sorted out. Not showing us perhaps as much pace as we saw at Rockingham, but a lot happier than he was in race number 1. Runs wide there. Dan Petters is going to have a look up the inside line as they head down in towards the Brooklands hairpin, see whether he can get the position. He won't at the moment. On board again with Dan and trying to get this position back. There is Dan Petters. Rhys Jones comes through. Then it's David O'Regan in the 8 car. David a little bit off colour in this one. Chris Land up and challenging Jeff Dixon now with Roger Dormer in behind in the number 7 truck. Dale Gent dicing for 4th position here. Dean Tompkins the man in front. Gent looks to the inside line. Tompkins runs wide. Gent's through. Mark Willis ahead of them is in 3rd place. So Willis had a good run and potentially on for a podium. We saw a flash of red, which is Scott Bourne going through. He's in 2nd place. Now Dean Tompkins still the leading Pro 2 driver with the 2-litre engine. Mark Cooper in behind. On board again with Dean, trying to get back on terms here with Dale Gent. He's going to have a look at the inside line here, closing up. Good weekend thus far for Dean Tompkins. Points-wise, a good 6th position for him in that first race of the weekend. Another Pro 2 driver, though, having problems. That is Chris Land in the 77 has had a spin. Well, actually, he's got damage there on the rear, and he's going to pull the 77 truck over into retirement. Let's have a look and see what happened, what caused the problem there. On board with Simon Ward, the newcomer, goes down the inside of Roger Dormer, bang into the back end of the 77 truck. That's going to be retirement for both of them. So, 2 retirements from 1 incident. Luckily for the 71, Simon Ward is able to limp the 71 machine back into pit lane. We rejoin Mark Cooper, who's having a good, decent run here. And Cooper manages to go past Dean Tompkins. He's on the inside line. Tompkins loses another place, but still the leading Pro 2 driver in this one. Rich Ayling, the other Pro 2 runner we haven't mentioned, with obviously the demise of Chris Land. And here is Michael Smith being chased by Paul Jones. Good to see Jones back with us, the Surrey racer, another ex-hot rod man, and a double winner here at Pembrey in the past. Pete Stevens has won 2 races here as well. Paul Tompkins, Mark Willis and Scott Bourne 1 race apiece. Michael Smith has won 3 times here at Pembrey, and Lee Wood has 4 wins. So Lee, the most successful driver at Pembrey, although this is a slightly different track configuration to what we've used in the past. And Jones and Tompkins and Smith, 3 former Pembrey winners altogether, with Dean Tompkins up ahead and Mark Cooper in the 30 truck still leading them. Dale Gent is in 4th ahead of that group in the black 83, and it's Lee Wood that still leads the race with Scott Bourne in 2nd position. So Wood will nab another potentially 15 points out of Scott Bourne's championship lead in this one, and I think is going to suit where David O'Regan is. He's away down the order, so there's a chance that Lee Wood could reclaim 2nd in the championship, as Tompkins goes on the inside line of Paul Jones to make up a place. So a good move there by Paul Tompkins, who's coming through the field. Chris Land's stricken truck in the background, and the 82 machine of Paul Jones continues on his way now, chasing Paul Tompkins. Back with the race leader though, Lee Wood from Scott Bourne. Mark Willis is in 3rd place. The top 3 relatively spread out. Certainly not used to seeing huge gaps in pickup truck racing, but it's Lee Wood who is leading this one at the moment. They go on to the last lap. Scott Bourne has just set the fastest lap of the race. So Bourne with a 1:14.244 is closing in on Lee Wood, and he'll want to try and get past him if he can. Lee Wood knocking on the door of reclaiming 2nd place in the championship. Scott Bourne, though the championship leader, defending champion as well, is closing in. Still Mark Willis in 3rd place, on board with Bourne, chasing hard. You can see the brake lights coming on from Lee Wood's truck going into the left-hander, then it's the right-hander in towards the Senna S's straight run down to the Brooklands hairpin then. So Ford leading GM in 3rd place with Mark Willis, another Ford engine with Dale Gent 4th from the GM of Michael Smith in 5th position. And I don't think Scott Bourne's going to have enough time to close in on Lee Wood. Lee's probably, to be fair to him, measuring this one as well, and his thoughts will start to turn to a hat-trick maybe in race 3. We've got that to think about, but he goes through Honda corner for the last time. The checkered flag is already being waved at the race winner. 2 out of 2 for Lee Wood, matches Scott Bourne with a 7th win of the season, a 5th career win here at Pembrey. Bourne 2nd, Mark Willis will take 3rd place. Here comes Mark in the 65, clearly back to circuit racing form. Dale Gent in 4th place, and we just saw Michael Smith coming around Honda at the back of shot to take 5th position, but the 2 teammates acknowledge each other there. Here's the result: Wood, Bourne, Willis, Gent and Smith, followed by Paul Tompkins and Mark Cooper. Paul Jones in 8th, Dean Tompkins top Pro 2, then Rhys Jones, Jeff Dixon and Roger Dormer next from David O'Regan, Pete Stevens and Rich Ayling. Fastest lap, penultimate lap of the race, going to Scott Bourne. Scott down in victory lane. He is 2nd. Let's grab a word with our top 3.
Lee, congratulations on that win. Fastest lap before the end of the race. Scott just pipped you for that, I think, for those points, but that I reckon puts you back into P2 in the standings.
I think so, yeah. That was a good race for us. Yeah, unfortunately we did lose out on the fastest lap at the end, but at the end of the day, race win is that's what we're going for, is race wins. And yeah, we missed out on that, but that's the way it is. We've had a good weekend so far, 2 race wins, so let's move it on into the last race of the day.
Scott, you know that silverware cabinet's probably creaking, isn't it, down in Sussex?
It is getting a bit big. We're gonna have to start thinking about doing something else, I think. You know, blinding race there, wasn't it? You know, it was a really good race. Come on stronger towards the end. I think we just pinched the fastest lap there, so that was another 5 points. So yeah, points make prizes.
Mark, that was a decent race. Lots of positions made up and a podium at the end of it. Well done.
Yeah, we suffered a little bit this weekend with our grid position. We're not doing Snetterton. And the car felt good yesterday, so we ordered a couple of bits on it this morning, and we came through and had a good third there. Yeah, anything we can get now is a bonus for us.
Lee, we were going to catch up with you after problems in race 1, but instead we left it to race 2 and still more problems.
Yeah, we put in the spare gearbox because the spare gearbox has been being mended, and this one's jammed between 2 gears now. So we've done this one as well now. So.
And a little bit of a grounding for you in race 2 into pits very early on. What was the problem?
Fuel pressure, we think. Everyone's working to try and sort it out. Yeah, we was in the holding area, it was fine. Pulled out on the track and put a foot down and just cut out, and then was stuck on the track. So,
Daniel, can you run us through the problems? I think sadly we've lost you today, is that right?
Yeah, we're done for the weekend now. We had problems all day yesterday with alternator brackets breaking and taking out the oil pump belt, and then today in race 2 it got real hot, had loads of water and oil in it, so I think we've hurt something in the engine. Just have to get it out back to Exxon race engines and see what he can do with it.
David, saw you pit twice during that race. What were the problems?
Track position sensor was the main one. The plugs got wet as well from the race yesterday, but just tough to find all the electrical problems that was with it. But we think we've it solved now and for the last race. So.
Conditions better again for race 3. Not completely perfect, but they're ideal enough for the front row runners Dale Gent and Michael Smith. Mark Cooper with Mark Willis on row 2. The third row, Scott Bourne and Lee Wood, first and second in the championship now. Fourth row, David O'Regan, third in the championship of course. Pro 2 runner Dean Tompkins, then Jeff Dixon and Rhys Jones on row 5. Sixth row, George Turicki with Paul Tompkins, Paul Jones and another Pro 2 runner, Rich Ayling on row 7. Penultimate row of the grid, Pete Stevens and Chris Land. Roger Dormer and Simon Ward complete the runners for our third and final race of the weekend, which is headed, as we saw, by Dale Gent in black and the white 93 of double former champion Michael Smith. They look absolutely superb going past our pit wall camera, and it's Dale Gent that grabs the lead, perhaps as we might expect, going down into Hatchets. Into Hatchets they go. Hold your breath as they go into there. Really good racing standards, you've got to say, because it's a very tight corner. You're on the brakes. It's a very crowded field, but they all survived that. So it's Gent leading, then Michael Smith in white, Mark Cooper third, Mark Willis is fourth ahead of Scott Bourne, then Lee Wood. Dale Gent coming into Clubman's corner for the first time. A little lock-up there in the background. Mark Cooper having a foreground lock-up momentarily, and Scott Bourne just getting ahead with him. Let's have a look what happened a little bit further back. Paul Jones on board shows us that we've got Jeff Dixon facing the wrong way. I think Jeff got tagged, and there was another yellow truck in the mix as well, which I think was George Turicki. There is Jeff. George coming up the inside line, rubs with Dean Tompkins, on board with George, tags the back end of Jeff Dixon, trucks going every which way. Turicki gets going quickly, bang! Simon Ward smashes into Jeff Dixon, but these trucks built by SHP Engineering in Ely and Cambridge are very strong, and both of those trucks carrying on. Certainly Jeff Dixon's made it past the pit lane. He wants to carry on with his racing and get some points in the bag if he can do that. And there's George Turicki, who was involved and came through very quickly. He's up ahead of Rhys Jones, on board with Rhys. These onboards, of course, looking much more pleasing than they were in race number 1, where we had the rain teeming down on Saturday. But so conditions have improved. It's still not necessarily a 100% ideal track, but we've had some super racing in our penultimate event of the year. Dale Gent is the race leader. Championship leader Scott Bourne has, by my reckoning, 260-point lead at the moment. So Scott third in the race. That's effectively a race and a 14th place in hand over Lee Wood in second position. So you'll be looking to maybe wrap it up at race 2 at Brands Hatch, 2 out of 3 at Brands Hatch, because we've got a triple header for you again at our end of season meeting. On board with George Taricki, working hard, and they've worked through the problems. A couple of drivers that weren't able to continue. Obviously we heard from Lee Rogers and also Dan Petters as we ride on board with Lee Wood. Dan Petters' team are all in pit lane, or just at the entrance of pit lane, watching this race. They haven't packed up and gone home early. They've stayed, and I guess by watching you're learning about the sport, but it shows great camaraderie that they're watching their colleagues in the championship doing the final race of the meeting. It probably hurts for Dan to be watching, but fair play to the team as a whole for doing that as we ride on board with Lee Wood again. Second place in the championship with a very good view of the back end of David O'Regan's truck as Scott Bourne now challenges Mark Willis, goes down the inside line. The championship leader makes up a place. Pit wall here at Pembrey. It's a super place to watch the racing. Indeed, if you get the chance to watch any racing from any pit wall up and down the country, you'll have a great time. It's Chris Baker, the eligibility official from Pickup Truck Racing, taking a keen interest in the race, taking an even keener one after the race when the technical checks are done, as Lee Wood goes down the inside line of David O'Regan. So Wood makes a pass. Mark Cooper busy chasing George Taricki here at the moment. So O'Regan with double race winner Lee Wood in front of him, and Wood passed him in terms of the championship points after race 2. So the 43 truck second in the championship now, number 8, David O'Regan is third. That was O'Regan's first retirement by my reckoning since November 2016, so he's had a really good, reliable run, and unfortunately, statistically, those runs do of course come to an end. George Taricki chasing him though at the moment, probably the wrong time for the reliability run to come to an end for David O'Regan, and he's under pressure from Taricki. Look at the smooth style required to drive these pickups, and the newcomer has bedded into the championship very well indeed as we watch from the pit wall once again. The trucks heading down the cowl straight into Hatchett's hairpin, and Taricki having a look at the inside line here of David O'Regan. He's got his nose in front, so David O'Regan loses a place. The GM truck passes the number 8 with the Ford power plant. Now going round into Debenny, much straighter on the exit of Debenny now, and they go into the New Clubman corner. There's Roger Dormer in truck 7, ahead of Dean Tompkins, who still leads the Pro 2 Championship. Talking about retirements, I don't think Dean Tompkins has had a race retirement in his career. Shorter career than several of the other drivers. Didn't get to race on the oval at Rockingham, but that was a non-start rather than a non-finish. So he has had mechanical problems, but not manifested themselves in any races so far. So Dean Tompkins, very much Mr. Reliable, and he'll probably be moaning at me when we get to Brands Hatch about saying that, and let's hope that we don't jinx him, as Dale Gent in black still leads this race. Gent's done a good job off the front row of this partially reversed grid to start to try and get away, and challenging George Taricki to get the place back is David O'Regan. If you look, with Lee Wood's breaking away from these two. We've got Rhys Jones in the mix as well. Paul Tompkins in the green and black 12. We join the third of these trucks, Rhys Jones, trying to catch up with David O'Regan, who's still third in the championship. Fourth is still Michael Smith. Here is Michael Smith, fourth in the championship, second in the race. Watch for the black truck of Gent going through shot. He does. Michael Smith is second. Scott Bourne in third position, and Lee Wood about to challenge Mark Willis. He's got the inside line here, so Lee Wood goes through. The 43 truck, the man from Hereford, goes through. without a doubt, the most successful Pembrey driver now, with 5 wins here at Pembrey, and has matched, as we said in race 2, Scott Bourne for 7 race wins this year. So Leewood stats this year: 7 wins, 5 seconds, no thirds. Scott Bourne with 7 wins and 9 podia so far this season. So Scott working hard here. 3rd place, trying to close down on Michael Smith, the man from Hartlepool, who has had 2 podiums this year. A quiet year for Michael Smith, but a quiet driver, but a double champion nonetheless, as Dean Tompkins continues to battle with Roger Dormer. Good to see Roger racing with us again, and he's on the outside line, so Dean Tompkins manages to go past the man who finished 6th in race number 1, making up places again. Roger learning his circuit racing craft, and Tompkins remains ahead of him at the moment. These two actually dicing for a top 10 position in this race, which again has been well supported. As Scott Bourne challenges for 2nd place, finds an inside line, dives down the inside line there as they come through Honda Corner, one of the fastest corners on the track. And Scott Bourne goes down the inside line. Michael Smith saw him, gave him racing room. That's how you do it in pickup truck racing, and it's Bourne through into 2nd place. Bourne free now, if you pardon the pun, to try and close down on Dale Gent up front. Gent with the fastest lap of the race on lap 3, 1 minute 8.926, averaging in damp conditions 77.82 miles per hour. Scott Bourne 2nd, Michael Smith is 3rd. Are we going to see a 3rd podium of the year for Michael? It looks that way at the moment. Those 2 trucks have got a good lead over the machines battling it out for 4th place, but Dale Gent is our leader at the moment. The 83 truck comes from Burke Hampstead, has had 3 podiums so far this season, 2 of which came last time out, so you kind of get the feel that there's a bit of momentum with Dale going on at the moment. Oh no, he spoke too soon for Michael Smith, who is slowing. The 93 truck was in 3rd place. Oh, that really is the curse of the commentator for Michael Smith. A shame to see the 93 truck slowing up. Not been the weekend for him or his teammate David O'Regan. So Scott Bourne 2nd, Lee Wood is now 3rd. 4th place is Mark Willis, coming under pressure from this man, George Taricki, challenging for 4th and potentially his best circuit racing finish. And Taricki gets the inside line and takes 4th position. Willis is 5th, Taricki now up into 4th. And a race win on the oval at Rockingham, as I know I've banged on about several times. Door off the 93. Michael's going to climb over the barrier and go to safety. That is such a shame. I hate seeing retirements in any of these races, because so much work goes into every single pickup truck that you see on circuit. So we've lost Paul Tompkins now and Michael Smith from this race. Roger Dormer having a good old battle here with Chris Land. Rhys Jones about to try and challenge Mark Cooper. Pete Stevens has gone up the inside. Nice to see Pete Stevens having a good run here as well. Another former champion, one of the older drivers in the series. But of course, being an older driver, bags of experience from Pete Stevens. A lot of the guys look up to him enormously. Mark looks in the mirror, loses a place. But Pete Stevens having a very good run here and is in 6th position. So Pete Stevens up ahead of Rhys Jones. Rhys in 7th, Mark Cooper now in 8th place. So it's Dale Gent still leading. There is Pete Stevens in the number 4 GM Power, up ahead of similarly powered machine of Rhys Jones, then the Ford of Mark Cooper just in behind. Those 3 running well at the moment. Still Dale Gent out front with, including this one, 4 races to go before the end of the 2018 season. There was a drivers' meeting today to discuss the 2019 season, which you can read the news of elsewhere, but it was very well received. On board with Dale Gent. Dale comes out of Honda Corner onto the Cowles Straight now for the penultimate time into the hairpin. He's got this, surely got this race now. He's got a good lead over Scott Bourne, and this could be a first win for Dale, who told me he didn't really get on with this track when he was here before, but he's driven well, he's picked up some good points. Possibly now 5th in the championship. We'll have to do the mathematics once the checkered flag comes out, but there is Scott Bourne in 2nd. Lee Wood is 3rd, keeping the Championship alive as we head down towards Brands Hatch. So Gent onto the newest infield corner, now out around the centre S's. We'll head down towards the Brooklands hairpin and then onto Speedway Straight, chased by Scott Bourne, who for second position will pick up 185 points, 15 more than Lee Wood, who is in third in the distance. We ride on board with Lee once again, but Dale Gent is looking as if he is home and dry. Coming down the straight, watch for the checker. Dale Gent takes his first pickup truck championship race win. It's going to be Scott Bourne in second place. He was closing in, but nowhere near close enough to get to Dale Gent, who's taken the win. Lee Wood is going to complete the podium, so a good result for him. And then George Turicki, a best circuit racing finish for George Turicki, in fourth position ahead of Mark Willis, with Pete Stevens completing the top six. But Dale Gent is going to be one very happy man after that first win. A little bit of pickup truck history. Gent from Bourne, Lee Wood third from George Turicki, Mark Willis and Pete Stevens. Rhys Jones next from Mark Cooper, Paul Jones and Dean Tompkins. Roger Dormer in 11th from Chris Land. Then Jeff Dixon ahead of Rich Ayling and Simon Ward completing our finishers. Into victory lane they come. Let's hear from Dale Gent.
Many congratulations. How do you feel?
From nearly not making it on Friday because I was ill, throwing up all day and all night. I nearly weren't going to come along here. And it was my other half, she said, you need to go, you got points, do it, go. I said, as long as, because we was all downhill. I was like, as long as you're right with that. We left at 9 o'clock at night, Friday night, got here at 4 o'clock in the morning, yesterday morning, and well, a little bit disappointed yesterday with qualifying in 9th in the first one, but we were struggling with no brakes, and no rear brakes. But then to bounce back today for a 4th place, and then, I don't know, I can't really say.
We told you the win was coming and you didn't believe us, but you've got it. Many congratulations on your first pickup truck racing win.
Thank you very much, thank you.
Scott, loads of work for you to do in that one, and Dale just kept the legs on that front row start.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I knew Dale was going to be a tough man off the front row. Sitting back in, in 5th there, it was always going to be an uphill battle. You had some great champions in front, Mark Willis and Michael Smith. They were going to always be tough and make it hard. So we managed to come through at the end and over the moon.
2 wins and then a 3rd place. That's a really good point haul.
It is, yeah, really pleased with that. Obviously, we were trying to chase Scott down there. I got a bit caught up with the traffic in the first part of the race, but we managed to settle in, get a head down, and finish 3rd. So I'm really pleased with that. Strong weekend, what we needed. Unfortunately, David didn't finish again, so that obviously didn't do him any favours. Helped in my way, but yeah, it's the way it goes, isn't it? Sometimes we just need to keep fighting against Scott now and see if we can do something a bit special at Brands in a few weeks' time.
As Dale Gent receives the spoils of victory, let's take a look at the championship table as we head to the last 3 races of the season at Brands Hatch. Scott Bourne with a 282-point lead over Lee Wood. David O'Regan third, ahead of Michael Smith, Dale Gent and Paul Tompkins.
Well, end of weekend here at Pembrey, the penultimate meeting of the year. First of our 2 triple headers for the Pickup Truck Racing Championship. 2 wins for Lee Wood, a maiden win for Dale Gent in that last race. What a weekend we've had. Scott Bourne still leading the championship, and all therefore still to play for as we head to Brands Hatch in November. Thank you for watching today. We'll see you next time.